Thank you all for joining us for the November edition of Indie AWS. Super excited to have, we've got 3 heroes in the room and I think a couple community builders. So you're sitting with a highfalutin group of folk. Maybe we just think highly of ourselves. I'm not sure. I want to thank you all for being here. We are being a little more stringent with like letting people in. So make sure you are RSVP'd for future events. That way we can make sure we let you in to said event. And let's kick this off. We've got make sure you follow us on Twitter. Laura does an awesome job of helping curate a lot of the good content that goes up there. She's got a good team who's putting up cool stuff on the Indie AWS Twitter. If you want to tweet about this evening, make sure you add the Indie AWS hashtag. I believe Laura, you'll also be like live tweeting tonight's session as well. So make sure you go join the conversation on Twitter. That's a good spot to interact with folks. Before I get to sponsors, whoops, going too fast here. Due to popular demand, we are back in the evenings on the third Tuesdays of the month. We made an exception this month for our awesome guest, but we'll be doing the evenings 7 p.m. in January will be our upcoming event. We skipped December's to help celebrate the holidays with the Indie Hacker Holiday Social. If you're not familiar, you can go to indiehackers.org. There's a fun, it'll be remote again this year. So if you're not from the area, you can actually join us for the Indie Hacker Holiday Social. Should be a good time. It was really fun last year. They'll have the Hackies, which is our annual awards ceremony for folks in the community who do awesome work as community members, not just celebrating the fancy companies that like love to brag about their awards. This is actually like shooting stars and best mentor and kind of these great awards we can give to recognize the people who are doing the awesome work in the community. So I don't know if the Hackies nominations are still open, but they were up on indiehackers.org. If they are, nominate someone who you think may be worthy of such an awesome award. Make sure you're registered on meetingplace.io. We are not on, well, we are on meetup.com, but we really officially use meetingplace.io. If we had a door prize, I'd be doing the red drawing off that, but I'm not this time. But if you do want to sponsor, speaking of sponsors, I want to thank 6 Feet Up for being an organizing sponsor. I am co-founder there. So Indie AWS is brought to you by 6 Feet Up. 6 Feet Up is a software company that helps you, hold on a second, I got like Windows over Windows here. It helps organizations build apps faster, innovate with AI, simplify big data, and leverage cloud technology. I co-founded 6 Feet Up in 1999 and have been the co-founder and the CTO ever since. So thank you to 6 Feet Up for letting me have my friends all over once a month for a cool meetup. I want to thank one of our new sponsors, reify Health. They are hiring. So if you go to reifyhealth.com/careers for more information, they're looking for developers of all levels. So if you're looking for a new opportunity or a new adventure, check them out. They are actually sponsoring Indie AWS and Indie Pi. So they've gotten super engaged with a couple of our meetups, and it's awesome having them on board. Speaking of jobs, there is the Indie AWS channel on the Indie Hackers Slack. So if you go to that bit.ly link, that's an inviter for the Indie Hackers Slack. There is a jobs channel on that Slack. Please go make yourself known. Tell people what you're looking for. If you are hiring, make sure to put your jobs up there on that Slack channel. There's a lot of action that happens on the Indie Hackers Slack. They send out a great newsletter at least once a month, highlighting some of the great jobs that have been submitted over their job board and on Slack. Again, we moved to meetingplace.io. If you want to claim your meetup.com profile, you can by going to that URL. It'll ask you to put in a couple bits of information, and it'll actually move you from meetup.com straight over into meetingplace.io, which they're awesome people. The guy here locally founded it. I've been really happy with how that's worked. They will make sure your emails actually get delivered and not spam you with all kinds of crazy crud. I'm speaking to other meetup organizers in the room because I can see them smiling at me right now. Now, for the real reason you're here, we have the Introverts Guide to reInvent. So Margaret is another one of the AWS Community Heroes, and I'm super excited to have her give us a preview of what's coming up and what to expect. She's done, I believe she said this is your 3rd year doing the guide.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, Margaret, I'll let you take it away because they're not here to hear me talk. They're here to hear you talk. So I'll stop sharing and let you go.
Got that awesome podcast mic and voice.
Yeah, when you get in front of this mic, it all changes, right?
All right, let me share, make sure I'm doing this right. You can see slides.
Yep, looking good.
Okay, good. Cool. So I don't want this to be a lecture. I am also a user group leader. So if you have questions, no comments disguised as questions, just questions or points, because I know there other people have been to reInvent too. So if it's a nice little nugget of knowledge, please jump in and share. One thing with the Chicago AWS user group is we did virtual a lot for Corona being home, and some just, it was a lecture, nobody asked questions, and then we went offline, and it was like yet another work meeting. So I don't want that to happen. So please jump in and actively participate.
Yeah, I'll be watching the chat, looking for any questions, or Slack or Twitter. So if you've got questions and you don't feel like actually like unmuting and you're super introverted, that's cool too. You can actually put those in there, and I will interrupt on your behalf.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So the required about me, I work at Morningstar. I'm a program manager for the cloud services team. So everything cloud services, like we're a center of excellence kind of thing. I'm an AWS Community Hero, which means I promote AWS for free, and I focus on community. So I run the AWS user group in Chicago, and we've done some Midwest community days. So that's how I've gotten to know Calvin and some wonderful Midwestern folks. Excuse me, I'm a little froggy. I think everyone's got a cold these days. I'm also involved with DevOps Day Chicago. So Greg, when you mentioned DevOps, yes, those magic words. So let's talk more. And then I mentioned I run the Chicago AWS user group, Chicago Deep Dish. So I made this little logo, and if you'll notice the cheese bubbles are clouds. Still proud of myself about that. So reInvent is the most wonderful time of the AWS year. If you're not familiar with reInvent, it is the place to hear about new service launches. It's gotten so big and so many announcements coming out. This week through November, they started calling pre-invent because anything that didn't fit in reInvent gets rolled out this week or next week. And it's cool just to be there and hear it in person. You also can go to sessions from the product teams and the people at AWS who build the stuff and work on the stuff. You can see cool use cases, bump into somebody in line and talk about something that you share in common, some technical problem. You can get hands-on with labs. There's immersive AWS experience, and it's just exciting. Like for me now, it's kind of like nerd summer camp. Like I run into people that I only see once a year, like a reunion of, oh, hey, how's it been going? And you have your reInvent friends. So the reason I wanted this talk to focus on introverts, it's huge. It can be very overwhelming. I did the square footage calculations. There are 450,000 square feet of like just venue space in Las Vegas. It's 12 hotels to stay in and 4 hotels for the venue. That's this year because it's much smaller than in the past. In 2019, it was 65,000 people. I've heard unofficially that it's going to be smaller, closer to like 40,000 people. We'll see. They did just sell out, so I don't know what that limit was. It's over 6 days now, and it's grown to more and more things. They're hands-on, like 1,000 hands-on workshops. I saw today that there are more than 300 official venue sponsors, vendors and sponsors, so that's going to be a huge expo. It's just a lot of content, a lot of stimulus, a lot of physical space. So me being the introvert, I thought it would be the most helpful of how to navigate it, because you can go and feel so overwhelmed that you don't take advantage. So these are my tips. And your mileage may vary. Hopefully this isn't just for introverts. This is obviously based on my experience. And I was trying to think, I've been 8 of the 10 years that reInvent's been a thing, if you include virtual. So the first year I went was just like, what is this AWS thing? And should we go to reInvent every year as a company? I should have stayed. There was like a fireside chat with, I think it was Werner Vogel's, like 2 feet away from me. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna go over here. Oh man, I was so close. Why did I do that? And then the next couple of years I went as someone who worked for a company that had a booth in the expo. So it was kind of a sales focused role, trying to meet and manage contacts that way. And that was very draining as an introvert. And then the last couple of years I've gone for pure learning. And then, like I mentioned, it's kind of like a summer camp for me now. It's fun to expand that knowledge and run into like-minded people. And I've gotten the opportunity to go and just be a session sponge, just go to sessions and learn as much as I can, because it's hard to do that when you're in a booth. All right, so overall recommendations. Just first, Vegas, if you haven't been before, or if you've only been in certain contexts, it can be very different for a conference. First, it's dry, it's a desert. So be prepared, get water, pace yourself. It sounds silly, but like day 3, you're like, man, I'm really like dried out. So give yourself some time to adjust to the time zone, the climate, and then just like everything is overwhelming. There's stimulus everywhere. And then a tip just to orient yourself. If you haven't been before, everything routes through a casino. So to get to your hotel room, go to the casino. To get to the conference space for reInvent, go through the casino. And the point is to trap you in there. So make sure to remember where you're going. And plan ahead, there's a lot of walking because you're going through casinos. The first year I went, the Gartner conference was in town too, and it was at the Caesars, I think. So I looked on the map, Venetian to Caesars, super close. I can just go to a session here, go to a session there. And then I realized, no, you have to like leave the conference, go through the casino, go outside, go across the street. You can't go across the street, you go over the bridge. It was a terrible plan. So multi-venue thing is very challenging and requires a lot of planning. So there is a lot of walking between, especially if you're trying to go multiple venues in a day. So plan ahead. And then another thing that just always trips me up when I go to Vegas, nothing is free. If you want water to drink in your hotel room, bring it with you. There's a CVS near the Venetian, and I think that's going to be my first stop. I'm going to put my bags down, go get water, get some snacks, just have something that's not from the mini bar to kind of make it through the week. And then just for the conference too, nothing is free in terms of swag. So if you go to the expo and you see some cool thing, you have to register, you give them your email. So be prepared for the email floods. All right. So I kind of hinted at this. My big thing is prioritize your time, aggressively manage your schedule. This is my schedule of the things I reserved. I didn't reserve a bunch of seats. I wanted to kind of float around, and I have a lot of space between all of them because just getting from one session to another is not easy. And we'll see how it goes this year. I don't know. I favorited a ton of sessions and I plan on watching them later online if I really need to focus on it. But there's some that I wanted to get reserved things for hands-on labs, or if it's a really important topic that I want to hear. So the keynotes, this is an introvert special. I highly recommend not going into the massive room for keynotes. The huge long line to get in there, to get a seat, you have to get there early. Here's a picture. It is very crowded normally. We'll see how it goes this year. There are several of them, but they're all live streamed. So you can go to an overflow room. It's one of the session rooms, like a ballroom, and they'll play it and you can sit with other people, but you can kind of space out a little if you want. They have some lounges and I think they'll do it in like the registration area. So you could just kind of walk up. If you need to head to a session that's right after the keynote, I would recommend not going into the keynote room so you can give yourself some time to get to your next session. And then another thing everyone should do that I think is really helpful, follow along with Twitter or however you consume your immediate updates. I like seeing what people respond to immediately. There's a product launch and people are like, this is really cool. Oh, that's a good application for blah, blah, blah. And Corey Quinn will always have something snarky to say. So it's a good entertainment too, just to process the fire hose too. I try to bookmark or favorite tweets that mention use case, and then Amazon, of course, will give the official link as the announcement happens in the keynote. Another introvert trap is the expo. It gets bigger and bigger every year. It is just like outside at Vegas, lights and moving things and lots of people and crowds. And people just kind of stuck wandering, looking around. So I like to go with a mission. Come prepared with questions. If you know there's a vendor sponsor there that you want to talk to about, hey, we're doing a POC with your product and this is happening, go gather questions from your coworkers now and say, what do you need to know from, if I run into somebody from blah company, what should we talk about? Go directly to those booths, talk to people. If you're feeling up to it, wander around and get swag. But I find that's, for me, I get really overwhelmed quickly because people jump out at you and want to talk to you about something, and all the extroverts are there. So beware. I'm going to give a plug to the Expo Floor Nature Walk with Corey Quinn. He'll go by and talk about booths in their natural habitats and companies and what he thinks about them. It's very entertaining. Be open to learn. So not that anyone is closed-minded, but makes good opportunities of being there in real life if you're there with other humans. I just think the lunch and meal setup at reInvent is the coolest thing I've ever witnessed. The like mass efficiency of the hotels is amazing. They like, this picture is, looks like a ton of people, looks like it could be chaos, but they have people pointing you go to this booth or this little buffet stand, 15 people, nope, it's closed, you go to the next one. And then it's kind of that middle school, where should I sit experience. So it's usually people in ones and twos, and then they sit and look at their phone for all of lunch. And as an introvert, it's super tempting to do that too, just not talk to people. But you're there having a meal with someone at a big table. So it's a good chance to ask, instead of like, where do you work? Oh, I work at Morningstar. It could be like, what session did you go to today that you really liked? And you might find out that person works in a similar industry, or they do something totally opposite from you. And that's always an interesting thing for me. Get hands-on. I wanted to add some pictures of past reInvents so people kind of get that understanding of like the space and what it looks like. That helps me not be as anxious about it. So get hands-on, go to some game days, jams, even a session that is maybe above your experience level that you think. I thought I was at like 100 level networking, but I went to a 300 session and I felt like I really took away some things that, okay, I didn't totally get this, but I'm gonna go learn more about whatever it is. So reInvent, especially in person, is a great opportunity to get hands-on, do the challenges, the game days, whatever, because that's what you're there for, to learn. Save some time for fun. I don't think I have to say this for most people, and it's Vegas, but there are so many Amazon ways to do interesting things. They have replay, they have the happy hours, and then I think they're calling them quirky events, like what do they call it, like the hot dog eating contest, stuff like that. So whatever you're into, there's a 5K, there's hot dog eating. It doesn't all have to be parties. And then if you look, I think it's conferenceparties.com, and then search for reInvent. It's all the vendor parties that you can search for. And if it's a company that you're interested in learning more about too, it's a good way to get people's attention and not have to go to the expo also. And just like be open to, hey, let's go have dinner with these 4 random people that were in that last session. It can be really hard to do as an introvert, but it's worth it. Recap and remember. I do this tip because I kind of assume that a lot of people have that mandate of, if your company is sending you to reInvent, they expect you to come back with a presentation or you write a memo or whatever. So poll the audience. This is when you're sitting in an awkward spot waiting for a session to start, or if you're in the lunch line, ask a question about what was your biggest takeaway from the keynote today? It sounds cheesy, but you'll get a real answer rather than the, hi, my name's Bob and I work at Microsoft. That's a terrible example. It's Amazon.
Although Microsoft Bob was a good callback there.
It popped out of my head.
I work at Google Cloud or something.
Yeah, I'm here as a spy. And then you learn something cool. So just, what's your perspective? And this is a cool way to make other people do that homework for you. So then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that keynote announcement. I'll put it in my report. Use that plane time. If you're sitting in the airport, if you're on your plane back, mentally dump it all, because it is overwhelming, and then you'll want to go home and, take your shoes off for a week. So while it's fresh, remember what's going on. And then obviously something everyone here has accomplished, join your local user group, because we are the coolest people in all of the AWS community.
Obviously.
I think in the official guide, I said something like, keep that excitement going all year, connect to the people that you meet, and keep that interest going of, I want to be inspired about whatever. I have a question, I'm stuck on something. This is what your local user group should be, and hopefully is. All right. I couldn't find a good picture of David Pumpkins. Any questions? But questions, comments, similar experiences?
Margaret.
I think you started to address the question I had. Being an introvert, like my company, like is expecting me to come back and share, like bring something back to the company valuable, like share. And like my passion is like I want to make other people passionate about this, and just learn something new, or just see the potential that we could just do something fun and cool like for our company and bring value. So like, I don't know, like, is there a certain like event I should attend that you'd recommend, or like certain type of event? Like I don't know what the game day thing is, or like the labs, or like, I don't want to just like bring back like, I don't want to just like sit on an email and be like, here's a bunch of like videos to watch of sessions I like. I mean, I might do some of that, but I would like to make it a little bit more provoking and just interactive, maybe like something they can play with, or
yeah.
any thoughts?
In-person game day and jams and all those things are good for you to like get your hands on a keyboard and try it. But usually they do also have that. I think AWS has a GitHub page of workshops. And then they have some landing pages for specific things. Like I know there's one out there for Light Sail, where you could go through the game day challenge by yourself, or you could run it at your company if you felt that confident. Or get someone from AWS to help you.
Yeah. Is that like is the game day thing like a coding challenge type thing? Is that impression?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That sounds
the most
fun.
popular one I think of is, it's like Unicorn Rentals. It's this fake company, and they give you the scenario of, you have to expand in capacity, demand is out of control, how do we scale, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So that'd be a fun thing to run through with your coworkers to make them try something.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, Chris and I have done the jams in the past and really enjoyed that, as far as like you're in the room with the people who created this challenge and they know the most about these things, and they're just walking around and no one's asking them questions. Like you can just commandeer one of them and just pepper them with all the questions you like ever wanted to know about some crazy service.
Yeah, definitely. And if you can dive deep, if there's anything specific that you want to bring back for your company, if it's like RDS, you can go to the AWS booth and talk to like the main RDS engineer people. They're probably there. And the person giving the talk about whatever it is, you can grab them after.